Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I have Neuro Coffee in hand and it is perfect. Okay. It's Wednesday. Very exciting. Tomorrow's Chips and Salsa Day, so that's always something to look forward to. Also looking forward to the 6 a.m. Coffee and Coaches Conference call. Please join us for that. Post your coffee prep on Instagram in your story. Tag me. I'll share that for you, and we'll all have a great time talking about whatever we talk about on the conference call. Sometimes it's very technical. Sometimes we're just blowing off some steam, but it's always a great time. Always great people. So join us for that. On the Q&A today, I got a question from my buddy Charlie Reed. He of the perfect hair and the amazing guitar playing ability, but also one of the better coaches around. So if you're in Charlie's area, it's R-E-I-D, Charlie Reed. Track him down and do some work with him. Great question though. That's going to require a bit of a demo that I'm not going to do today, and then we'll probably follow this up with something a little bit more accurate. But I wanted to talk about rotation because that's what Charlie's question is about, because I think there's some misunderstandings about how rotation is actually produced, especially in sporting movements. So Charlie says, I had a question regarding improving and restoring trunk rotation. You did a nice video on improving shoulder turn for sports that require a lot of rotational ability like tennis, golf, and baseball. My question is, do you have any suggestions for improving trunk rotation in the gym or at home that require no equipment? Absolutely. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to actually enhance the ability to rotate with our athletes and our regular clients, because they have lost that ability in many cases as well. But the thing that I want you to understand is how this rotation is actually produced, because I think it is grossly misunderstood. People think that the two sides of the body are doing something different, and they think that the top and the bottom is doing something different. So when we talk about the bottom, we're talking about pelvis. When we're talking about the top, we're talking about thorax. People seem to think that they're rotating in opposite directions. If that was actually occurring, it would be one, very, very uncomfortable. Number two, it would not look very fluid. And number three, it would be very, very difficult to breathe. And so when you do have people that are producing sort of this counter rotation between the pelvis and the thorax, you're going to hear them do some form of a Valsalva or a breath hold to get there, because you have to use superficial compressive strategies to produce that type of movement, and it's not very fluid. So when we're talking about athletics, especially in producing rotation, let's talk about how this is actually done. So let me grab my incredibly high-tech homemade thorax here. So we got a representation of a thorax and a spine. I might be looking down the line here. And so if I turn my spine, you'll start to see the shape change here, where I get this expansion on this right side, and I get a compressive strategy on the left side. If I turn it in the opposite direction, you'll see that sort of flip-flop. And I think this is one of the reasons why people seem to think that these expansion and compressive elements are creating an opposing strategy. The reality is, from a muscle orientation standpoint in a rotational sport like golf or tennis or baseball, more often than not, if they're not using a compensatory strategy, which some people will do that, if they're not using a compensatory strategy and they're creating this nice fluid rotation, both sides of the body are doing the same thing at the same time. The difference is going to be the use of an overcoming versus a yielding strategy. So let me give you a for instance. So if I am swinging a golf club, because I'm translating my weight shift from one foot to the other, it's actually representative of gait. And so I don't have this pure turn where one side of the body is going forward, one side is going back. I'm actually translating. And so as I rotate, both sides, if we talk about the posterior aspect of the body, both sides are constantly going to push me towards the one side. So if I'm a right-handed golfer and I'm taking my backswing towards my right side, the concentric orientation on both sides posteriorly is pushing me to the right. The way that I produce the turn is actually have a yielding strategy on the side to which I'm turning, and an overcoming strategy on the side to which is pushing me towards that turn, and that's what produces the turn. So if I was coming straight at you, it would look like this. Both hands are still coming forward, one is on a delay, and so that produces what appears to be the turn. I would just reverse gears and I would go through that to my follow through if I was a right-handed golfer as I translate to my left leg. And so again, so what we have are these alternating yielding and overcoming strategies, which is what produces the turn. On the front side, obviously I have an eccentric orientation and I still have the yielding and overcoming elements that again produce the turn. So if we were looking at a pelvis and I look at the two ends of the golf swing, so again, backswing to this side, follow through to this side. Those are both inhalation strategies. They're both going to produce external rotation through the pelvis. And so if I was just to ER both sides of the pelvis equally, what I would see is this. But to produce the shift, I create a yielding strategy on the side to which I am turning. And so it looks more like that. So both sides are ER. Now, what I'm not doing is I'm not showing you the IR element in the middle. So here's exactly what happens. So I go ER with a yielding strategy on the right side if I'm taking my club into my right-handed backswing. As I come towards the middle, I will IR. This is where I produce my maximum force. So force is always produced in an internally rotated manner. And then I would shift back to my ER strategy where I have the yielding strategy on the lead leg there. Now, if I'm turning, obviously I have a foot position that's coming up from the ground. I've got a knee position that's coming up from the ground. I've got a hip, I've got a femur turning into the acetabulum that also contributes to my production of rotation. So I'm not ignoring that. I just want you to see the representation of what's going on in the axial skeleton because it is both sides of the body doing the same thing from a muscle orientation standpoint. The difference is the delay that's produced by the yielding and overcoming strategies. So right away we have elements of PNF that are in play to help us produce rotation. So those are your chopping and lifting patterns because what they're doing is that they're actually producing the concentric orientation on one side of the body, the eccentric orientation on the other side of the body, and then as you move through space, you're producing these yielding and overcoming strategies. And so that's why those contribute to rotation. Any number of rolling patterns are going to be contributors to this ability to create rotation. So all of your arm bar progressions, the simple log rolling that we're doing, the unilateral shoulder rolls, etc., all contribute to these compressive and expansive strategies that we're going to use to produce turning. If we think about the pelvis as something as simple as working through our split stance activities will actually help us produce this rotation. So again, we have a lot of things that we can utilize in the gym. I promise I'll produce a video that will demo some of these things so we do have a visual representation of how we would utilize these things. But I just wanted to throw that out there and let you see that rotation is probably not what you think it is. And again, both sides of the body are doing the same thing at the same time. We just have a little bit of delay between one side and the other, and that's why we see the rotation. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.